This is my MacBook Air M1, and today, after using it for over 4 years, I decided to share my experience with it through an honest review. Let's begin. I'm gonna start with the reason why I bought this MacBook in the first place. To be honest, I was already quite familiar with the macOS since I had a MacBook Air 2014 before, but that's not all. This was also the first generation of MacBooks to come with the M1 chip made by Apple after their fallout with Intel. So after I read more about it and looked into other Windows options around the same price, I decided that this is probably the best option for me at the time. And honestly, I'm very happy with my choice. Now, let's talk about what I like about this MacBook. For starters, the design and build quality. This might be a bit subjective, of course, but I really like what they did here. The design is simple, but still has a premium feel to it. Slim profile, very lightweight, even compared to some laptops today, and it does that without compromising on the build quality. Believe it or not, this MacBook got a good few hits over the last 4 years. More often because I dropped the bag it was in without thinking I had it on me, but I did also drag it off my desk once or twice when it was charging. Still, this is nothing compared to one time I had my older MacBook Air with me outside and either me or one of my mates hit it with a football. I honestly thought that's the end of it, but somehow it only got a bit of a dent here as you can see, and it's even working today. Next up, the battery life. When I first bought it, I remember it was advertised to support up to 18 hours of video playback thanks to the M1 chip and the optimization. Today, after many charging cycles, I can still go on a single charge until the end of the day without a problem. And I've been using it a lot. To get an idea, here's a screenshot from the battery health report. So really, no complaints here. Next, the speed and overall performance. Now, I'm the kind of person that likes to be efficient when working. So I use a lot of shortcuts and trackpad gestures, and honestly, I can't feel the response time. Even now, it's extremely quick. In terms of multitasking, I can have 20 or even 30 tabs open at the same time when I'm doing research, and I can edit 4K 30fps videos in DaVinci Resolve without any lag or crashes whatsoever. A few weeks ago, I had to do some color correction for the Pigeon vs. Internet video, and I really thought I'm gonna struggle with the playback after that, but it actually went very well. Now, bear in mind, my MacBook only came with 8GB of LPDDR4 memory, not 16. Looking back, having 16 gigs would have definitely helped, especially because over the last year or so I started working with virtual machines and network emulators, and that didn't really go great for my resources. But in all fairness, the scale of the projects I wanted to work on wasn't really meant for this MacBook to begin with, so for what I use it for most of the time, I can still say that I'm very happy with the overall performance. Oh, and by the way, if you get to the end of this video and still have any questions about this MacBook, just leave me a comment and I'll be more than happy to help. That being said, let's talk about what I don't like about this MacBook. For starters, the available storage. My MacBook came with the base storage of 256GB of SSD. And I know some of you would say that I could have just spent more and get 512 or even a tera. And yeah, I could have done that. But I still think that a base MacBook that you pay €1,000 for should at least come with 512 gigs. I mean, come on, storage is not that expensive anymore. And the price difference between MacBooks with different storage options is just diabolical. Now, I don't know what it was like 4 years ago, but if you're looking at the MacBook Air M4 today on Apple's website, you pay $999 for the base model, which still comes with only 256 gigs of storage, by the way. And if you want to go up to the 512 gigs, the price goes up another $200. Yeah, they also give you 2 extra GPU cores with that version, but maybe I don't want it or need it. Another thing which I cannot necessarily say that I don't like, but it's something that you may not like if you're not familiar with MacBooks. This is not a gaming laptop. Sure, you can still play some compatible and less demanding games on it if you want. I, for example, played a bit of Dota 2 recently on high settings without any issues, but it's not really meant for that. If you want the best gaming experience, I would recommend you go for a gaming PC, if portability isn't a must, of course. Because generally, you can get much better performance from a gaming desktop than a gaming laptop. If you're a bit techy, you can even pick the components yourself and build it from scratch. Silvio actually made a whole series with PC building tutorials, so I'll leave a link in the description for you if you want to check that out. Now, There are also a few things about this MacBook that I can't necessarily say that I like or dislike either, like the display for example. This MacBook has a 13.3-inch Retina display with a 2560 by 1600 pixel resolution. Size-wise, that works fine for me, but if you're coming from a 15-inch or bigger, it may feel a little bit small. It would have been nice to have an OLED display for when I'm editing our videos, but to be fair, with a few twitches here and there, you can still get good colors overall. The screen is bright enough, 400 needs to be more precise, and using it in a relatively bright room, I find this to be more than enough for me. Most times I actually only go up to about 70% brightness and it looks fine. Next, the ports. This MacBook has two Thunderbolt 3 ports and a 3.5mm audio jack that I don't think I ever used. I would have preferred a Type A USB instead of that audio jack, but it's not the end of the world, especially since you can get an adapter for like 10 euros or something like that. Next up, the sound. Stereo speakers with support for Dolby Atmos playback, apparently. I honestly care so little about the sound that I didn't even know it's capable of Atmos playback until I went back to double check the specs for this video. So for the sake of this review, I went on Netflix and played some Dolby Atmos content to test that out, and it's okay, but you can't expect much from laptop speakers, to be honest. That aside, the sound is still clear and the speakers are loud enough to fill a relatively large room if you need to. Now, how does this MacBook compare with other laptops today? Well, if you're comparing it with another Apple device, like the MacBook Air M4 for example, you will notice an increase in speed and performance to begin with. You now have more CPU and GPU cores, and the base model comes with 16 gigs of RAM instead of 8, so you also get a better multitasking experience. As I mentioned earlier, the base storage is the same, 256 gigs, and so seems to be the case for the battery life, which is advertised to also support 18 hours of video playback. Sure, there are a few upgrades here and there, more noticeable from a performance point of view, but they come at a price. Double of what you would pay for a refurbished MacBook Air M1 to be more precise. So, is it worth the upgrade? Maybe, or maybe not. Honestly, it all comes down to how you use it and whether or not you'd be happy to get a refurbished MacBook to begin with. For most people, I believe this MacBook is more than enough for things like research, browsing, streaming, multitasking, and even some 4K video editing. Plus, you would get a really good deal on it since it's a couple of years old now. If you're worried about the fact that you have to get a refurbished MacBook, bear in mind that retailers would still normally give you a warranty with it. My last MacBook Air, for example, was refurbished and still came with a 5-year warranty. Now, if you're ready to spend $1,000 on the M4, you may also want to consider some Windows options too, especially if you want to do some gaming on it. One of the biggest advantages with Windows in this price range is that you can now find laptops with dedicated graphics cards, a lot more storage in the base model, and better compatibility or optimization for gaming. That's not to say Windows is just for gamers though. Depending on what you use it for, you may find that a Windows laptop can be better optimized for certain apps than a MacBook, or the other way around. So really, it's all about use cases and a bit of personal preferences too. At the end of the day, everyone's different and what works for some may not work for yourself. So I think the best way to look at it is really think about how you're gonna use it, how much you're ready to spend on it, and if you'd be happy to get a refurbished model. Once you've done all that, I think you'll be ready to decide if this MacBook really is the right choice for you. If you watch this video, you are probably considering buying this MacBook anyway, and if that's the case, I hope this gave you a good bit of insight into what to expect from it and what the alternatives are. Like I said earlier, I'm more than happy to help with any questions, so feel free to drop me a comment if there's anything else you need to know. Also, there's a lot more content like this to come, so if you like what we're doing and want to support us, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video before you go. Right, that's it from me. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.